Spawn is beginning a noticeable descent due to his desperation. I discuss this and more on today's episode. Welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I have found in my travels. Today I want to talk about a comic series that I've been exploring, one that is about demons, angels, and corrupt police officers. I am referring to the Spawn Compendium 1, which covers issues 1 through 50. I'm specifically talking about issues 31 through 40 today, by Todd McFarlane, which was originally published in 1992. I talked about Todd McFarlane before, especially in issues 1 through 10, so I don't need to go into that great of detail. He is Canadian, has written and illustrated before, is the president of Image Comics now, and he's most notable for Spawn. Wonderful writer. So without further ado, let's talk about issues 31 through 40. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. So in issues 31 through 40, Spawn returns to New York. The homeless people who are around him are becoming disillusioned by his weird habits and the danger that he presents. Meanwhile, the Angels have a new leader, a person named Raphael, and Raphael wants Spawn defeated, so they create a new anti-Spawn, or the Redeemer, as he is known, by a person named Phil Temper, who is a bit more holy than Wynn has been, because Wynn was a bit corrupt. Redeemer beats up Spawn and manages to take his friend Bobby, who is one of the homeless people and who also has a bit of Spawn's power because Spawn brought him back to life. He's being experimented on, and Spawn breaks into the Angels' headquarters in order to save Bobby. The Angels don't want a scene, but they're also a little upset because a member of the Angels, or the demons, the Hell, broke into Angels' headquarters. But the Angels let Spawn take Bobby, and an older person who Spawn was holding hostage and who might have been God, it's kind of unclear, says that Spawn couldn't have broke in because only the holy and the not fully corrupted are allowed into the headquarters, and Spawn, that means Spawn isn't fully corrupted, and there must be some purity or hope for him in the future. Meanwhile, while all that's happening, Terry requests a transfer to Wynn's department to find out more about what's going on with Wynn. And we also see that the Violator is keeping tabs on the Spawn in the hopes that he can defeat him, and he's also working with Wynn to alienate Spawn further, having great things happen to Wanda and Terry and the family to sort of make it so that they don't need Spawn as much. And that does seem to be working as Spawn becomes increasingly reliant on the homeless to provide company for him. We also see Twitch, who got injured in his own sort of mini-series, is now recovering from his injuries, and Sam is astounded to find out that Twitch's wife is pretty hot and that he has a lot of children. We also see that Chief Banks, who Sam and Twitch are trying to implicate in their crime and in the crimes that he's doing, seeks Spawn, and Spawn confronts Agent Wynn because he's like, you promised you would not send people after me. I have this file on you and I will use it if necessary. And Spawn ends up fighting security in the process, and Terry shows up, and Spawn feels betrayed that Terry would side with Wynn over him, even though Terry doesn't know Spawn's identity. But Spawn is going through an entire thing. He ends up jumping out of a window with Wynn, but Wynn manages to survive, and Spawn runs away when the police try to catch up to him. He ends up seeking Wanda to to sort of help him get over this sort of betrayal, but she's terrified of him and sends him away, which leaves Spawn to again feeling rejected by this woman that he loves. In the interim, Spawn ends up running into a man calling himself the Freak, who warns of disturbing doctors and evil, nefarious sort of scientists. And we end up seeing that these doctors are only there because the Freak is running or is trying to break into an asylum and confront the doctor who had him committed, because to be fair, he is quite disturbed. But Spawn still seems to help him and take some inspiration in terms of hunting down and maybe fighting Terry, which he doesn't really seem to do here. In another instance, we see a man investigating another mental health facility or like an abandoned science thing in an effort to track down an experiment. And through it, we find out that a scientist transferred his wife's mind into a gorilla in order to save his wife, as part of an experiment to create cybernetic soldiers. And so what it really created was a cybernetic gorilla, which kills the person who's sort of breaking into this facility. And then the gorilla goes off and runs and does cyber gorilla things. And then we see another story presented from the view of a child who, on Christmas, is wishing for Santa to come. They come from a bit of a poorer family, and the child is left on their own. And meanwhile, Spawn takes down a couple of bad guys on the roof, and the child mistakes Spawn for Santa. But Spawn ends up flying off, which he believes is again Santa, and he leaves behind. Well, Spawn might not know it, but like a bunch of money gets left behind, which the boy gives to his family as a present, and they're like, I don't know what's going on, but they end up using that money to benefit the community. And then as the story comes to a close, as these issues come to a close, we see the curse once again capture Spawn as revenge for what Spawn did to him, to nailing him to a wall earlier. And the curse begins to dissect Spawn in an effort to learn more about his power, maybe use it for good on the side of the heavenly people. And that's where the story ends there, on that cliffhanger. In terms of analysis, there is quite a bit worth talking about with these issues. One of the interesting things that Todd McFarlane does in these set of issues is he's showing Spawn's descent. Spawn's sense of right and wrong has become affected by his desperation. He's still able to do good things, like fight people on that rooftop, maybe give back to some of the children that he's working around, fighting the Klan and whatnot. But he's becoming more and more desperate, and he's taking more and more risks. And that's leading to a lot more mistakes, as noted by Cagliostro, whatever his name is. Allow me to read you a good quote from this. Your solution to all of this? Kill what you don't understand. Let your ignorance rule those government-trained homicidal instincts. What do you want from me anyways, Cog? For you to focus. Use your power wisely. Like it or not, you were assassinated under orders. And that's just an interesting quote, because it gets at the central conflict with Cagliostro and Spawn. Cagliostro is repeatedly saying, you died and you became this thing, you want to become something else, but you're still sticking to your human life, and you're making a lot of mistakes in the process, specifically pointing out like how killing one person led to a huge gang war and something like that. And that seems to be a frequent thing that happens to Spawn in this series. He tries to kill Wynn, and he just arouses the anger of Terry and ends up getting shot a bunch of times and having to use his power. He confronts Wanda and turns her like even further away from him because he's doing it in a sense of desperation. Because he does not think ahead, because he's making a lot of these mistakes, he's alienating himself from the world, and all that's left is his demonic side, or his desperate side, because he might not want to turn to his demonic side, but really that's kind of all that he really has left. And what's also interesting is that Spawn is increasingly calling himself a king, like the king of the homeless, like he's building a throne for himself. He's putting himself in an isolated position. It doesn't bode well that Spawn is doing that. He's no longer viewing himself as the human that he once was, and we'll especially see that once we get to issues 41 to 50. It really just feels like he's falling into the trap that's set by Malebolgia. Like, this is Hell's path. This is exactly what Hell wants for him in order for him to become a soldier. And even if he doesn't become a soldier, he's still isolating himself from his humanity, human side. And he's going to become this monster if he doesn't do anything about it. And it really feels increasingly like this is the path for Spawn. There is less and less hope that he will ever like recover his human side, or that he'll ever really want to be human, or that he'll ever stop making these mistakes. This is just who he was. That was who he was in life, and he's not going to get much better in the afterlife. I'll also note that the Freak issue, where he meets and interacts with the Freak and kind of helps him on his delusional efforts, is really interesting, and I think it's because it reminds me a little bit of the Cabinet of Dr. Caligari, a sort of horror story told from the perspective of a mentally ill patient, where he sees like the workers of this mental health asylum as like evil sort of people trying to harm him and the people around him, and so it leads him to take a lot of extreme actions, and that's really what's happening to the Freak here. So I like the illusion if it was intentional. If not, it's still something worth pointing out there. I'll also point out that the art makes New York City look like hell. There's a particular panel where you're looking out of the demon or the angel headquarters, and New York does not look like a great place. There's a lot of red, a lot of unnatural kind of grimy colors, especially with Spawn in the homeless encampment. It doesn't look like a great place to be, and there's just a lot of decay and rundown. It's crime-ridden, and it's a decaying wasteland. You might even wonder, like, has Hell already won? Has it already taken control of New York City? There's certainly not a lot of hope for the people who are living here. It's very thematic, and it just adds to the world that Spawn finds himself in. I do have a question though. Like, there are instances where there's like a hopeful bits and pieces where Spawn takes on the Klan, or Spawn takes on like people who are bullying children or something like that. And I do have to wonder, like, do these hopeful tones conflict with the overall feel of madness and violence? Like, McFarlane is definitely trying to send a message, and he's trying to show Spawn's descent. So if there's bits and pieces of hope, like, that's good, but does that kind of conflict with what McFarlane is overall trying to do? I don't necessarily think so, but I do think there is that opportunity to ask it. Like, if you add bits and pieces of comedy or whatnot here and there, or show where Spawn is buddy with the homeless, like, does that conflict with the message that Spawn is no longer becoming human? Maybe there's bits and pieces where, like, you can lose your humanity, but you can reclaim glimpses of it every now and then. But I do have to ask that question, because I do feel like at times it kind of takes me out of it when McFarlane makes a huge joke. Anyway, those are my thoughts on issues 31 through 40 of the Spawn Compendium 1. Pretty solid entry into the series. Very much enjoying it, and I highly recommend that you, if you're going to read this, start at issue 1 and make your way from there, because there's a lot to be taken from this. I especially like, again, I'll note, like, Spawn's descent is it's very steady, and it doesn't happen suddenly. It just sort of happens naturally, and you're like, oh wow, yeah, this has been happening the entire time, and it doesn't bode well for Spawn. Certainly hope something better happens for him, but that's not really where this series is going, unfortunately. But yeah, if you have any thoughts, if you want to comment on my review here, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this author or this series if they don't already know. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and redeeming based travels. Farewell.